Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisholm, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. John Chisholm here. Thanks for tuning in to the show today. We have a very special episode, but before we get to it, I just want to share some great news with you, and that is that the Song Revolution podcast is now on One Jam Nation Radio. At 2 p.m. Saturdays, you can hear all of our new episodes each week, and then at 5 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays, we'll be sharing some of the back catalog and some of the wonderful interviews and teaching episodes that we've produced here on the show. So I hope that you'll tune in to One Jam Nation Radio, which offers listeners an inspirational talk radio format transmitting a mixture of Christian music, Christian talk and teaching, music, news, and more. So a big shout out to One Jam Nation Radio, and you can check it out at onejamnationradio.com. So today's show is all about big beards, big baldness, big glasses, life, and worship as an ex-professional varsity Christian with CCM artist Tim Timmons. Now, I loved Tim Timmons' music long before I ever knew that I would meet him and be able to interview him on this show. His music is really cool. It's fresh. It's not like everything else is out there, and I think that you're really going to enjoy his music. I wish I could just play his whole album on this show, but I can't. But we had a really fun interview, and I think you're going to really enjoy Tim. I mean, he served Jesus for his whole life practically in ministry, and has only in the last few years really awakened to what it means to be a true Jesus follower. He was diagnosed with cancer many years ago and has survived and has so much to say about the nearness of Jesus and just the preciousness of each day. So I think you're going to enjoy Tim. So sit back, listen to this episode, and then after you've come to know him a little bit, go out and buy everything he's put out, because he's just a really good guy and I really love him. So here's Tim Timmons. I am so excited because I'm sitting here with the lovely and talented and kind of hairless on the top, Tim Timmons. Tim, welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, that hurts my feelings a little bit.
Starting off right.
Yeah, no, I've got a pretty sweet beard, but there's not much going on up top.
Well, I know you.
But the deal is, I've had this like beard, bald, big glasses thing look for quite a while, and I was just a dork for so long, and all of a sudden it's kind of like in.
Totally.
So I guess I'm kind of, I might be good looking for like a few days.
It's pretty striking. I mean, I'm kind of wondering what's living in that beard. But,
that is a valid point.
Yeah. I mean, is it messy with food and stuff?
Sometimes when I'm talking, the little guy in there will start talking. So if somebody says something inappropriate, it's probably him, just so you guys know.
There you go. Well, hey, we're glad to have all of you
here thank you.
On the show today.
We are honored to be here.
Yeah. Well, man, we're sitting in these posh offices here, B Music, in the Gulch here in Nashville, and just a joy, man, to get to know you a little bit. Loved your music.
Thank you.
I mean, you've got, we're going to talk about your discography and all that kind of stuff later, but tell us a little bit about your life here, and because you're not from here, you're from California, right?
Yes. So I'm from Orange County, California. And I've been coming out here to Nashville for about 10 years, just as a songwriter. And I was a worship leader out there in California for a great community out there. And then left 6 years ago. And that's a whole another story for another. Well, maybe this is the time.
This is the time, man. We got time. Stretch it out.
So when I was 3,
I was born at a very early age.
Yeah, very early age. Anyways, I left. I was at Mariners Church, this great community in California.
Great church, yeah.
For 15 years, and then left there, and it's been quite a whirlwind since then. But we can get into that. Yeah.
Wow. So just decided it was time to pack up and move to Smashville and bring the kids.
Okay, so I'll go into it.
Go ahead, man. Give us the download.
I was there 15 years. And at the last 2 years, Jesus started changing my heart on things and ultimately pushed me out. I lost favor with my senior pastor at that point.
Wow. Okay.
And we've talked about it many times since, but Jesus was pushing me out. And really, I'd say 8 years ago is when well, let me start by saying this. I was a varsity American Christian my whole life. Varsity, I mean, like Letterman jacket, the whole deal, like awesome. Like try to quote me on or get me, beat me on a scripture test and I'll probably win.
Bible drill.
I mean, I just know some stuff, right? Sword drill. And the problem is I knew all about Jesus. I just didn't know him. And even as I was a pastor, I knew all about him. I just didn't really know him. And so 8 years ago, it was this beginning of this, of me saying, in a sense, Jesus, I'm not going to work for you anymore. I've worked for you all my life, but I'm done working for you because I'm exhausted. I was exhausted. My soul was tired. And I'm writing songs. I'm working for him. Yet I'm just as exhausted as my neighbor who's, an agnostic guy who's like, I'm not into your God and I'm soul tired. And I was just the same guy. So anyways, 8 years ago, I kind of burned my Letterman jacket, Christian varsity American Letterman jacket. And just said, Jesus, I'm done working for you. I just want to hang out with you. And if I'm supposed to just work at Starbucks and that's what I'm supposed to go do, then awesome. If you want to do something great and it happens to invite people to you, then awesome. So giddy up. So I wrote a song at that point, which is one of my favorite prayers and songs that I've ever written. But the chorus it's called Only One Standing. And the chorus ultimately says, so I surrender all. Would you let my kingdom fall so that yours alone will be the only thing standing at the end of my day? And apparently the only thing Jesus ever talks about is his kingdom, like the availability of his kingdom. Like the good news is, yes, that he died on a cross, but that's not what Jesus says. I mean, that's what we'd all say is the gospel message that we'd tell.
Yeah.
But that's not what he says. He talks about the availability of his kingdom where he's the king and we're not. And so it was this like interesting moment of like, I'm going to start praying this every single day. That Jesus, I'm going to surrender my kingdom so that yours will be the only thing standing at the end of my day. So at the end of this podcast, somebody at the end of this will listen and go, man, that Tim guy's a dork, but I can see that Jesus is changing that guy and is powerful through that. The kingdom is alive and well in me. So that was 8 years ago, and I already worked out, so you can see I write a little X on my wrist every day that just reminds me to keep praying that prayer and to be seeking first his kingdom and not mine.
Wow.
So anyways, I ended up leaving Mariners, and I had just written a record with this understanding, like, what if we can write songs that help people pray a bigger prayer than just the things that I've always prayed my whole life, just about grace. Grace is wonderful, but Jesus never uses the word grace once. And it's just an interesting thing when we try to go, okay, so what did Jesus care about? And how do we write songs that are actually inviting people to him and not just this thing, this Christian thing? So I wrote these songs, and every label in Nashville came, to my door going, hey, Tim, you want to sign a record deal? And I was like, I don't need you people anymore. I used to want you so bad. I used to want this record deal so bad. And then Jesus just keeps opening doors. And so I ended up signing with Provident, which is, Christian Sony, we used to say, and did finish 2 records with them. And it's just been quite a whirlwind. And then we ended up moving here 2 years ago to Nashville because I was on tour so much I missed my kids and my wife. So
yeah. So what was the song? What was the song you wrote that you said you wrote a song and they started knocking at your door?
I did this whole record. I did a Kickstarter record.
Oh yeah.
With Paul Mabry. And like, Paul, will you do this record with me? And so we ended up doing the Cast My Cares record.
Oh yeah.
Is actually that record.
Oh, gotcha.
So it had 13 songs on it that we were going to do just as a Kickstarter. We raised like $44,000 and we did this record. And then out of that, everybody that I'd written for, all these people are like, hey, man, this is real great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't need you guys. I had kind of moved past the point of needing their approval or wanting them. I just was like, Jesus, if you want something that's actually going to benefit the kingdom of God, awesome. If not, man, I'm content.
Wow.
So it was when I really gave up, in a sense, my kingdom and trying to be awesome and polishing my kingdom, that Jesus, maybe I was finally usable for the kingdom of God.
I was reading in Oswald Chambers this morning, My Utmost for His Highest, this whole passage, today's entry about the offensive words of Jesus, and that if you're offended by something, that means you're offendable, and that he is offending that thing to death because he wants to, like you just described, right? You wanted it so badly, but you wanted it for yourself, and working for Jesus. I love that's what a great phrase. But he eventually wiped it out of you, and then it all kind of started happening. So,
and I'm still in the process of him wiping out my kingdom, because I literally write this thing multiple times a day. So you guys can't see it, but I have a Sharpie that I carry with me every single day, and a few times a day I write this little X on my wrist, just remembering that it is not about my kingdom. So when I get cut off today on the road home, and somebody offends me because they've just threatened my kingdom, it's like, no, my kingdom is so stupid. Why would I actually engage in this because you've threatened my kingdom when it's nothing about my kingdom? So it's been a kind of a fun practice these past past 8 years of just going, Jesus, I'm just going to practice being with you.
Wow. Well, that's challenging me, man. Hand me the Sharpie.
Yeah. Well,
here goes.
You
Here goes.
I did talk to a doctor.
No.
So you guys, I literally Sharpie on my wrist every day. It's whatever. It's just my thing. And I talked to a doctor once. I'm like, hey, man, this has been so good for my soul, and I probably won't stop because it's been so good for I'm no longer soul tired the way that I'm practicing Jesus these days. But I Sharpie all the time. Man, am I going to get like another kind of disease? I mean, I've already been diagnosed with one cancer. So am I getting something else? And he's
like poison.
And he said so seriously. And I'm like, oh crap. He's like serious right now. He says, well, Tim, have you ever heard of Sharpie-itis? And at first I'm like, maybe there's, doctor jokes. But it hurt my feelings for a little bit. But apparently I'm okay today.
Yeah. Well, do you remember the old film star Hedy Lamarr?
Nope.
She died. She dyed her hair
Wait, she died or she dyed her hair?
She dyed her hair so much she died from the poisoning from whatever that was back in the 30s or 40s, or I don't know when it was.
Okay, moving on. Another conversation.
You got to be careful. Yeah. So alongside of this work of grace that's gone on in you over the years, you also received a diagnosis a number of years back that has been kind of a companion.
16, that's a good way to put that, actually. Companion. 16 years ago, they gave me 5 years to live. So with an incurable cancer, I actually go tomorrow to see what the tumors are still doing. And so I've got a sweet checkup tomorrow.
Wow, they're still there.
Yeah, so there's still supposedly 4 tumors on my liver at the moment. And they say they're wearing out my heart. But the great gift of sorrow and pain and cancer or diagnosis is perspective. It's the greatest gift. I mean, I wrote a blog called The Gift of Cancer. And ultimately, I would not be the man I am today without crap and pain and sorrow and being offended, and my kingdom being threatened. And going, okay, I can either do 2 things here. I can either give God the bird and say, screw you, you've screwed me royally. Or I can go, what if he's God and I'm not? And what if he's at work in all these things? And what if the only way I can actually know him is through pain and suffering and sorrow? Because my kingdom is like broken down enough, Like all those things keep being used to break down what I think should happen. Because the king says, this is what should happen. And apparently I'm not the king. So as it relates to songwriting, I think it changes the way that I write songs.
Sure.
Because I'll be in these songwriting, sessions, and we'll just start writing something that is like, man, is that really helping anybody? We have a really great hook, but is that really going to help anybody really, really practice Jesus all week long? Is this going to actually move somebody to practice surrender instead of practice worry? These songs are like potentially powerful, not just CCLI hits. These are like potentially powerful invitations for people. So I'm pretty anal about lyric and what we're actually inviting people into.
Wow.
So, and a part of that is just through perspective of, I've sung all these songs, and even I remember after 9/11, which was something that happened in our country. If you don't know about that, if you're too young, I remember we sang these songs about God is my strong tower and all this stuff, and I remember going, man, I'm calling BS on this. I mean, it just did not feel genuine. And yet those are scriptural and whatnot. How do we really help people wrestle well and pray well? These songs are prayers. They're not just songs. These are like honest, powerful prayers. So that's what I want to be about.
Wow. Well, I love to talk about spiritual motivations on the show because I believe that we bring all that we are to our songwriting. And our audience, again, I'll probably say it 3 or 4 times during the show, but our audience being mostly aspiring Christian songwriters, hopefully we're broadening, but that's where we are for the most part. I just say that we bring all that we are, no matter what our psychological makeup is, our circumstances, our mindset, our spirituality, philosophy, and how all those things kind of work out. So how would you, you've had this diagnosis for these years, which, wow, congratulations on, going way past the 5-year mark. We're glad you're still here. But so how has I think you've described a little bit of that, but your basic spiritual motivations, maybe not even so much for songwriting, but it definitely influences that. Yeah. What would that be for you?
My motivations, my spiritual motivation?
Yeah. Gosh. You've been talking some of it, but
ultimately it is, I just want to keep hanging with Jesus. And as a songwriter, I think it's the most powerful thing I can do is hang with Jesus and watch him. I ask worship leaders all the time, which if you don't know what that is, it's somebody who helps people pray, sing their prayers, I say, how did Jesus lead worship? And how did he convey things to people? And because nobody ever asked me that question. I know how Tomlin leads worship and Hillsong and Bethel. I know how they do it, but nobody's ever said, like, how did Jesus lead worship? How does he? How would he? And how would he write songs? And if you really get into it, I think he was more inductive than deductive. Deductive would be, I'm just going to tell you something about God. God is good, you guys. And we're like, all the time. Or I can ask you a question, inviting you into helping you own your own response. So like, think of the woman at the well. What did Jesus do? He asked her questions and led her down her own path to basically help her have her own ownership of her response to him. The rich young ruler, that was hard to say. That was my beard started talking in that one. Rich young ruler. He basically, Jesus asked him questions. And then basically at the end, said, okay, so now own your response to me. That's what he did with everybody. It's crazy. And so I think, how do we communicate well? Jesus was probably a pretty good guy for us to learn from, how to be a worship leader or a communicator, a song communicator, writer, whatever. And in there, I'm always trying to figure out, how do we ask enough questions, even in the song, to help people own their own response to Jesus?
Yeah.
So, when we write one of my songs, it's called Christ in Me, that we were talking about before. And what if I believed Christ in me? Then I would. It's really like posing this question that what if it's actually true that I have the same spirit, power, and authority that raised Jesus from the freaking dead inside of me all week long? Like, what if it's true? One of my other songs is called Cast My Cares. And in the middle of the night, when worry finds me, just stop right there. I remember writing that with one of my favorite songwriters. And it was like, that is so honest. What person does not know that and could not own that in their own life? And then out of that, you say, so I will cast my cares on you, God, So I'm really strong about that with lyrically.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, that's great. And Christ in Me has been on my iPod since it came out.
Thank you.
'Cause, man, I love to get out and walk and run, and it's always there. And I've noticed that question. What if I believed? Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
a lot of questions on that song, but yeah.
Yeah. So these,
Because if it's true, it is a game changer. I mean, if
gosh.
it's actually true that I have the fullness of God, I mean, whoever's listening, if we lived as though it was actually true, it's a revolution, not a dumb religion that Jesus never started, by the way. It's like a revolution. So yeah, I get a little excited about that. And I think as songwriters, we have the gift and the ability to invite people into powerful things.
Absolutely. And that's been a huge point of meditation for me over the last couple of years, is that the Pauline scriptures of the Godhead dwelling in you bodily.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, crazy.
What if we believe that, right?
Crazy.
Wow. So letting those kinds of questions drive the songwriting process, for you winds up, pulling people into a deeper sense of maybe questioning. And I want to go back to a little bit of what you said earlier, and I read it in your bio as well, that, you had the professional Jesus thing going on, but it's just now really coming alive for you after basically how many decades of, living
years.
this thing.
Yeah.
So how do you tease that out theologically? I mean, or do you think about that, or is it?
Give me more.
Well, I mean, is it more of a reawakening? Because you were saved. I mean, in the classic Baptist evangelical, if you died tonight, you'd go to heaven.
Yeah.
But this is,
if salvation means a way through, and that's what salvation means, is is actual a way through. The kingdom is the way through, and it's a way through to what? And it's really a way through to the kingdom of God, where He's the king and I'm not. I would say more it's an awakening than anything else, and that my role in life is to disrupt. There are two words that I kind of go by. I'm a disruptor of the norms. I think Jesus has invited me to disrupt people's norms and then invite them into something so much bigger than they ever thought. So that's what wakes me up in the morning. I really actually believe that's why Jesus keeps me alive, and I'm still here today, and I'm still this good looking. I'm just kidding about the good looking part. Is that I get to disrupt people's norms, because we could just keep going on our dumb little religious thing, and I know how empty that is, because I was varsity. I was like captain, and I was like exhausted. And the stuff doesn't work. This religious thing, this Christianity thing does not work. Jesus does, but this thing does not. I'm a perfect example of that. And as I travel and tour the country, I'm with people all the time that I can see when they're going through stuff, our little religious thing does not really work. And our little just 80-minute gathering thing does not really work. And I'm not a damner of these things. I'm just kind of going, Jesus, what's part of the revolution? And I want to be a part of that. So, yeah.
Hey, well, welcome to the Song Revolution.
Yeah, I love it. I know.
So
I love it.
My next question, really along those same lines, is how does all that then? Your newest record is a children's record, but don't talk about that just yet. Yeah, but Awake Our Souls is the most recent one, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
And so great songs on that record as well as on the first one. So can you talk a little bit about Awake Our Souls and how everything we've been talking about kind of informed that process?
Yeah, that first record was more of my awakening. The Cast My Cares was like, what if this stuff's actually true about Jesus? I mean, I know all the verses, I know all the stuff, but like, what if it's actually true? Like literally true, that I can actually transfer the weight of my worry onto Him, casting it, and that He can handle it and He can take it, and I don't have to worry ever again. I mean, I can if I want, but the good news, the gospel according to Jesus, is that I don't have to. Like, if He's the king and I'm not, then man, I'm going to let that guy deal with it. And it was just my own awakening of like, wow, if this is true, what if I lived like this was true? So hence Christ in me. What if I believed? And the word to believe actually has, we use that so poorly. I've used that so poorly my whole life, as if, how many of us right now believe that eating healthy and working out is the best things for our body? I mean, everybody probably listening right now would raise your hand and go, yes, I believe eating healthy and working out are the best things for me. So what'd you have for dinner last night? Is the question. Who cares what we believe in our minds? And the way Jesus only used to believe, I think only a few times, almost only in the book of John. we Christians use it like it's coffee on Sunday mornings. But Jesus didn't. He used follow. But when he did use believe, it was always to be found living as though something is true. So if you believe something, it's like faith, that we are found living as though something is true. And that record was me kind of going, man, what if I was found living as though these Jesus invitations are true? And then Awake Our Souls was really me going, man, this stuff's working in me. Like, I've started practicing Jesus, and I have more fruit of his spirit, not fruit of my labor, than I've ever had. And I'm no longer soul tired, which is a huge thing to say, which I tried devotions and all that stuff my whole life, and it just didn't work. They're wonderful. Those are all wonderful things. It just was my posture and my heart in those things. And so Wake Our Souls was like, let's giddy up. Let's be about this, people. How fun could this be? You know? So
Wow.
yeah, it was really more of the invitation to the awakening.
Right. So in your song, can you describe a little bit of your songwriting process itself? So we've got kind of the spiritual motivations behind what you're saying, but a little bit about the actual process.
Yeah. I'm thinking about just that record specifically. So we had left Mariners Church and we started gathering with this in this motel, this nasty motel in Orange County, and with all the prostitutes and their pimps and all these homeless people. And we started hanging out with them on Sunday mornings, and it was so powerful. And I've started bringing my kids just because I wanted my kids to see the poor people, you know, that they could see the poor people. And I thought, blessed are the poor in spirit. For the people that don't fit in our gatherings, for theirs is the kingdom of God. And if the kingdom of God is the only thing that matters to Jesus, then it probably is a big thing for me. And so that became our church, because church is not a place you can go or a thing you do. It's who we are all week long. And so we started hanging out with this community. They didn't know what I did. And then a few of them got wind of it. And so we'd sing songs every once in a while. And I rarely ever sang there. But I could tell all these people were like trying to sing holy and blessed and all these words that I'm like, they don't know what these mean. I barely know what these mean. And I've studied it. So I decided, man, what if I were to write a song that they could actually pray, that they would understand, but was not dumbed down, but was really powerful. And so I wrote a song called Everywhere I Go. It was kind of my main single off that record.
Great song.
And
great
it was
video.
Really, thank you. Totally dumb video, but it was fun.
Great though. 360-degree video. It's so fun.
It's
so
fun.
You guys go check it out.
Yeah, go check it out. Or don't. But yeah, in that song, there's a future that runs through my veins. I just had a woman come up to me recently. Her and her husband walked up to me after a show, and they said, thank you for writing that prayer, that song. And I said, why? Tell me. And she said, because today is the year anniversary for me being addicted to heroin. And instead of heroin running through my veins, I have a future. The kingdom is, Jesus is in my veins. And I'm like, oh gosh, that is the best for a songwriter to hear something. And then her husband, she said, and his is on next Tuesday. You know, it's just this beautiful thing that these songs could matter if we really took the time. Another song I remember writing, so there's a guy named Jason Ingram, who's obviously a stupid songwriter. He is so amazing and such a great man. He's the real deal. And we were in just writing a song together, and we both kind of broke down a little bit because we were just having one of those days. And we could just write a good Christian song, but who needs one of those? Nobody needs another one of those. And we ended up writing, that session, we wrote a song called You Are Good. And the chorus, or the bridge, is probably my favorite part. So it's, I'll praise you, not that I have to, not that I ought to, but that I may. And it's this like crazy prayer that we thought, you know what? I'm going to praise you no matter what. Not that I have to, not that I ought to, but that I get to. I woke up again. And sometimes those are my favorite prayers, the ones that you just go, man, we set out to write this song, but we have to pray this song today, or else we're not going to make it through the day, you know? Then there are other songs in that record that are just, the process was probably probably 4 or 5 people ended up writing this song. You know, you start with this, and somebody else comes in and goes, yeah, man, I like that, but what if you did this? And so I'm a big fan of co-writing. I'm a huge fan. I actually don't write that many songs by myself anymore, just because I'm finding that I can write a good song. I'm a good songwriter. I believe that, and I've worked on this craft for so long. But every time I write with somebody else, they're generally pulling something great out of, I might have this cool little piece, but they're going to help develop that thing to be great. So I'm a big fan of co-writing.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it because I just love the synergy of being with people.
Yeah.
You know, that's what gives me a lot. As an complete extrovert, that's what gives me energy.
Yeah, me too. I'm with you.
Yeah. And it's so fun to get in a room and where there once was nothing, now there's something.
Oh my gosh, you're a little baby.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I love that process. One of the things that I've found is that my beard guy, my little animal in my beard, and myself, Gollum, we've found is that if you have 2 people that are walking in, or a few people that are walking into a writing room, and you have humility on both sides, whatever happens is going to be great. Whether the song sucks or not, the synergy will still work. But at any time there's somebody who's like, I'm a better songwriter than them, or I don't really get this, and I've felt that many times, and those writes just suck. So that's a great thing, just as we're going into things, songwriting, is how do we walk in with great humility, as if my poop stinks just like everybody else's, you know?
Yeah.
That's been helpful.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we could spin off a lot of directions on the poop stinks thing, but I don't know. So do you have a notebook, or on your phone, do you keep hooks and more hooks?
Yes,
and kind of how does that work for you?
I think every writer walks into a co-write with an unfair advantage. That's the way I see it. There are some writers that walk into a room, a co-write, and their unfair advantage is they just understand how to put lyrics together that just all work. There are some writers that walk into writes and they have another unfair advantage. And my question for you, whoever's listening, is like, what would your unfair advantage? Like something that literally God has given you this great gift. And one of my heroes, Stan Endicott, which you might know.
I love Stan. Yeah, is he still at Mariners?
Kind of. He does a thing called Slingshot.
Of course he does. Yeah. Love Monty and all those guys at Slingshot.
Stan is one of the biggest thumbprints on my life, other than my dad. Stan is one of the biggest. He's been a friend and mentor. But he talks about how there's skill and there's talent. And generally people are crooked are higher on one side than the other. Skill is the thing that you work so hard at, right? And talent is something that you've just been given. And he says most people are either high in talent, they've got so much talent that God's given them, but they just don't really work that hard at it. And then some people are high in skill. I mean, they work so hard. It's like me with surfing. I've surfed my whole life, you guys, 5 days a week until I moved here. I have so much skill with surfing. I mean, crazy skill, but my talent level is low at that. So in songwriting, I think there are ways that we find where our skill and our talent are matching. I love finding other people that have different skills and talents than I do. But unfair advantage. For me, my unfair advantage is I think I walk in with heart, going, guys, we got to say something bigger. So the perspective thing. And then I've got more hooks. And I think I've developed a skill with a talent for hooks. So how do we actually hook something in somebody's mind that then will help them pray that all week long? Wow. That's all I care about. So,
how do you find those hooks?
Gosh, I go mining all the time. So in my studio, I will bring a beat up and some patch or something. I'm a guitar player, but I write almost everything on keys.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, why is that?
I don't know. I think I've just played guitar my whole life, and I would say 80% of my songs are all written from the keys in some capacity. It's kind of weird.
Disruptive, or just kind of gets you off
gets me out of my... I was listening to a songwriter the other day who was asking me to listen to something, and you could tell that it was just the same the same pattern that he used. Then I wrote with a girl this past week who's a friend of a friend, and and she started playing my guitar songs on her guitar, and you could tell that every song had the same beep, 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 guitar thing.
Right.
And I think it's good for us to get out of that stuff. So I actually love going and writing in other people's studios because it pulls me out of the patches I know. And disruption is the great gift.
Yeah. Well, having done a lot of co-writing myself over the years, I realized that the very same thing, the unfair advantage that I bring, is more the hook and more the lyric driven thing. And people get frustrated with me because I won't settle.
Yes.
Like on a crappy line, it's like, come on, guys. You know, we've said that a million times.
Yeah.
Come on, can't we think of anything else to say? So how do you keep it fresh?
I think by doing what you are doing, well done. I mean, I think the more that we can be pushing and all going for the best song, the best prayer instead of who gets cuts and what. But I think that's the best. I think fresh is learning new things and pushing in and going, man, we can't say it like that again. We can't. So let's settle on it today, but let's come back to this, So
you kind of come in with a passion for a message, something that is the heart side, where something that's just on your heart to say, but you may or may not have the actual title or snippet of a verse or chorus.
Sometimes I do, but oftentimes it's whatever starts happening and that's the synergy of 2 or 3 people coming in a room with these different hearts and things that are going on. But whatever the point is, I really want to make it inductive and something that is not just dumb cliche stuff, but really something that's fresh and new. And so, I don't think people are getting frustrated with me, but I definitely push real hard to keep digging.
Yeah.
And even melodically, I'm the guy in the room that will not settle for, man, that chorus is killer, and the verse is like, oh man, that's okay. But if it's not good, it's not good. I think a Christian critique is the worst critique in the world because most songs that I hear from people, it's like they'll say, man, my church really loves this song. It's so good. And you'll hear this little piece of it that's like, man, that little part, that little hook there is really good. But the rest of it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you can say it better. You can actually give a better hook in the spot. You can say it better. I don't even think there's a person writing this. A robot could write this song. So how do we, and I just think generally people are like, oh, that song is so good, when it's probably not. There might be a little part of it that's good. So, and trust me, I'm this critical on my own songs as well. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So you've had these 2 albums, Cast My Care and Awake Our Souls. And now you have a new emphasis with a thing called 10,000minutes.com and a new children's record that I've already told you doesn't sound like a children's record.
Yep.
Called Who I Am, coming out of that. So I think that's kind of a fitting segue into that from everything we've talked about, from your priorities and everything. So tell us a little bit about 10,000 Minutes.
Who I Am is a kid's record that my friend gave me this tagline. He said, man, it's kind of like it's kid tested and parent approved because I like it as an adult and my kids dig it. So that was kind of my hope, is kids music drives me crazy. And I have so many kids that I was like, man, I got to do something. So it's my second kids record, actually. I have another kids record as well.
Sorry, I missed that.
No, you're totally good. I'm a little hurt by it. But
tell the man in the beard.
Yeah, hey buddy,
settle down. We need to give him a name. He needs a name. Does he have a name?
He can be named. he might remain nameless.
Monkey mind.
So Who I Am is a new record that I just did for kids. And it's really it's actually more for adults, to be honest, because I think parents are the ones listening to these songs. And they're all the same principles as everything else that I'd write for anybody else, but they're just a little simpler, so kids can understand them. And my dad always said, if you can't explain something to a 3rd grader, then you don't understand it yourself. And in a sense, as a songwriter, I think there's a great practice in being able to explain a concept in simple language, but not dumb, not like so simple that you've heard everything before, So this record, Who I Am, was really fun, and it's been really fun to get feedback from people, and hopefully kids. As a kid, There are songs that I still pray now as an adult that I learned as a kid, that when I'm going through hard things, I still pray those songs. So I want to give kids and people prayers that they'll pray for the rest of their lives. Is really what I want to do.
So 10,000 minutes.
So it's all, it's a product of 10,000 minutes. So everybody just check it out. If you want to Google it, you can. There are 10,080 minutes in a week. I'll say it again. There are 10,080 minutes in a week. Okay. Just trust me. 80 of those minutes are spent in a church gathering if you're really holy and awesome, right? Which is awesome. I love the 80-minute gathering that we do every week, whether it's in a coffee shop or in a larger community where the church gathers. It's awesome and beautiful and powerful. But that leaves 10,000 other minutes during the week. And if you think about it, I've spent my whole life pointing people to the 80 minutes. I mean, I was a worship leader for a long time and pastor, and it's always like, hey, bring people here. We'll tell them about Jesus. And again, please, everybody hear me. Tim Timmons loves the 80-minute gathering. I love it. I love it so much. I love writing songs for the 80-minute gathering. But if the 80-minute gathering stays church, then we're in major trouble. And I'd say in my life, I'm awesome in the 80-minute gathering, but there are 10,000 other minutes that Jesus is at work. And generally, the stuff hits the fan in the 10,000 minutes of our life. So I kind of see the 80-minute as that is a place where we are practicing surrender in a safe environment, where our hands are up and we're singing these songs, but we're really practicing what it's like to surrender. Then for the next 10,000 minutes is then when we continue the practice of surrendering and hanging out with Jesus. So I think it's just, Jesus at the end of the Sermon on the Mount says, so whoever hears my words and puts these things into practice all week long is wise. And if you don't, you're a fool. And my whole life, I was a fool for most of my 10,000 minutes. I'm like, I got this, Jesus. Cool. Great job. That song was awesome. I got this, really. So the goal of 10,000 minutes is how do we help each other practice Jesus all week long? So we have practices of a blog that we do every week. We're starting a podcast and a radio show on XM, and all about 10,000 minutes. And how do we practice Jesus all week long? So that's about all I care about these days. So all my songs that I'm writing, this next record that I'm writing for, is helping people in the 10,000 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Instead of 10,000 reasons, it's 10,000 minutes. Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Wow. Bless my week, oh my.
Ooh, gosh, that feels right. Oh, my soul. Yeah, yeah. We're writing a song right here, everybody. So just so you know.
Man. I get 10%.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
10,000%.
So that's awesome. And I really do encourage everybody to go check it out. I've already been checking it out and feel challenged,
the idea, this happened even recently where my son, he came up to me, he's like, Dad, this kid keeps calling me fatty, in my class, and he takes my water and says, you're so fat, you can't get it. And so I'm like, okay, number one, where's this kid? And I'm going to go fight him or cut him, one of the two, And what bus is he on? Because I will take him out. And I said, buddy, I want to tell you to go hit that kid in the face, like pop him in the face. But what are we practicing this week? Our practice this week is praying for our enemies. That was our practice in 10,000 minutes. And so I said, buddy, we're going to start praying for this kid. And it may not even change him, but it's going to change you and me, because Jesus has invited us. Like, we get to pray for this kid, and we're going to change out of this. So we started praying for this kid. And end of the week, he came up to me and said, Dad, I did it. I'm like, you hit him? And he said, no, he called me fatty and took my water. And I said, don't call me that again, and give me my water back, please. And the kid's like, okay, and gave it right back to him. But this concept of practicing Jesus, we could have just done a cool little, arts and craft thing and called it a day, or we could have practiced Jesus. And my son and I both changed because we're practicing what Jesus invited us to do. And I think most of us, 80% of people, by the time they get home after our gatherings, forget everything that just happened. That's just terrible math, everybody. So I just looked at my own life and I saw that I was so exhausted trying to do this Christian thing, and I'm done. And Jesus is way more fun, and he's at work in all the 10,080 minutes. So 10,000minutes.com, go check it out. 1000minutes.com.
Yeah. Great stuff. Tim.
Thank you.
I mean, wow. Just rich conversation, but an even deeper spiritual challenge to do more than put an X on your wrist with a Sharpie and risk ink poisoning.
Yeah.
But
I get it.
to actually go to a deeper space in real life, I've been challenged by my daughter. We have one kid, and she's almost 25, and her whole experience in Christendom. She was raised basically in the church because I've been a worship pastor all my life. But she went off to a college. She didn't go to the typical Christian kind of minded college, but we all knew that was what she needed to do, and she's going to really get mad at me if she ever hears this podcast. But her whole view of life, while she's a total believer, leads worship in her church, but her whole perspective as a millennial and what she's had to face and the whole, social justice deal is so different from, I didn't really grow up in a church going kind of home, but had a radical conversion experience early in life. And then I've spent the rest of my life, 40 years now, in the church. So my whole perspective is so different. And I'm challenged by that. When we have conversations, it's like, sometimes I don't even know what to say. Right. I mean, I'm diverse. I mean, I like all kinds of people, but you know what I mean? It's like I'm not in the depths. I'm not in the place where she and so many, are. So I just sort of did a little ramble, and I don't know why, but
you go, girl.
So
that was my beard talking.
But that was a monkey mind. But I'm challenged by that. I think that's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm hearing out of you today is just the whole awakening after a lifetime of being the pro Jesus, Christian. But wow, that's deep. So you've had a lot of success already. I mean, you co-wrote a song called Even If. That's the second longest running #1 CCM for Mercy Me. And a lot of people would give a body part, for that. I think I probably already know your answer, to this, but I mean,
it's a pretty cool story.
Yeah.
So I wrote that song 5 years ago, maybe a little over 5 years ago. With a girl named Crystal Lewis, who's an incredible, ridiculous singer. And we were going to put it on her record. And I remember when we were writing, I was like, uh-oh, this chorus is serious. And it's just a powerful prayer. And
Can you say it in a minute? I mean, the lyric, can you say it?
Sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Don't do that ever again. So we wrote that. She didn't want it for her record. And it wasn't fully done. The chorus was amazing and powerful, but the other stuff wasn't. So then I brought it to Provident, my record label, and said, you guys, I think this is a great song for Awake Our Souls record. I'm like, no, I don't think it's that good. I'm like, you guys, this song is so good. It is the prayer that I cannot stop praying. And so then snap forward. So Bart is the lead singer of Mercy Me, and those guys are kind of our best friends. He's one of my best friends, and they've just become our people we do life with. And so I had this sense a year ago that song was supposed to be for Bart. But it's one of those things where you're like, okay, you've got one of the biggest acts in all of Christian music as your best friend. And I don't do that. It's not my job anymore. That's part of my thing on my wrist is like, it's not about my kingdom and building my kingdom and making everybody go, man, you're a great songwriter. I'm just done. And so I basically said, Jesus, if that's you telling me that that's supposed to be for him, then awesome. If not, it's just because I want a big cut and I'm not doing that, So Jesus, if you want to open the door, you can. So Bart was in my studio. We were about to record a podcast, and he broke down crying about his son with diabetes and going, some lady had just said something crazy to him about his son, and he breaks down, and we're just talking about it. And his record, by the way, it was this record that's out right now. It was basically done. And I just said, well, that song, it'll go somewhere someday. And he basically said the chorus verbatim. I mean, almost word for word, he said the chorus. And I was like, oh, man, that's wild. That is wild. And so I remember at the end of our conversation, I said, hey, man, can I just play you this chorus? If nothing else, it's just going to be encouraging for you right now because it's like how I'm praying these days. And so I ended up singing the song to him, and he's like, oh, is that song done? I'm like, nope. And so we ended up rewriting it, and so that's a song called Even If. So it's amazing, and the stories from that one are amazing. We write a lot of songs for a lot of different people, but there are certain ones that you go, man, this is going to help people. Wow. And so this one's really been helping people.
Wow. Can you sing the chorus?
My God is able, and I know you can. Save through the fire with your mighty hand. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. And actually, interesting, it used to be, I know you're able, I know you can't. Come hell or high water, you'll rescue again. Something like that. But the we rewrote was, I know the sorrow and I know the hurt would all go away if you just say the word. But even if you don't, my hope is you alone. And Bart ended up writing a line in the second verse that was so good. Oh my gosh. I about peed my pants when he sent it to me. We just started writing things back and forth, and I would send him these melodies, and we started at my house, but then we literally just did it over the phone, writing with different, like, little, I have them right here. It's so funny. Yeah, so they say it only takes a little faith to move a mountain, but good thing, because little faith is all I have right now.
Oh, man, that's rich.
And God, if you choose to leave mountains unmovable, then give me the strength to be able to say it is well with my soul. And then we ended the song with it is well with my soul. And my sister had just prayed, that's kind of where that came from, is we were talking, and she was going through some hard stuff, and she said, you know what? This is not well with my soul. I want to sing that, but it's not. It's just all out not well with my soul. I was like, that is so honest. But yeah, songwriting is the best. What a great gift.
Wow.
It was just a great process, and so simple, and the way that Jesus wanted it to be, instead of the way that I wanted it to be as like a cool songwriter and to get a hit.
Yeah.
And then it just so happens that the song goes crazy, and just got nominated for a Dove, for 2 things. And yeah, it's just, how cool is that? That I didn't have to do jack squat other than hang with Jesus and trust him for his timing. And people are always saying, how do I get signed by Sony? How do I get these things? How do I get songs places? And I keep going, I go, okay, you want to know it? You're going to hate my answer. And I was touring with Big Daddy Weave, those guys, and they had the same exact answer. And the answer was, I say to people, is give up. Like, give up trying to be awesome for your kingdom, because your kingdom's not worth it, and you're not even usable for the kingdom of God. But the more that we're hanging with Jesus and just let him open doors, because, I mean, what if the king of the kingdom actually knows what's best for his kingdom? I mean, if there's such a thing as a king, he probably knows what's best for his kingdom versus me. I mean, I can ask him, how cool is that? We can talk to the king and go, hey, I'd love this to happen, but whatever you say, you go. And the more that we do that, I think Jesus knows what's best, and he'll open those doors. So anyways.
Man, you just touched on some great things, because I deal with songwriters all the time. I love songwriters. You know, songwriters are my life. And they all believe if they could be sitting in somebody's publishing office and be heard by the right people, that suddenly everything's going to be made right. They're going to be published. They're going to be heard. They're going to have the kind of career that you've got right now. Yeah. That, you know, that's just such a lie.
Yeah.
I keep telling them, you're in front of the right people, man.
Yeah.
I mean, sing to your family, sing to your church, sing to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and let God. I mean, just a quick story. We came here in '83 to take a church job that fell through. We had $40, no place to live. We were homeless for a season.
Oh my gosh.
And then I met freaking Bill Gaither. Yeah. And he signed me to a publishing contract, and I had no proof of anything, man. And so, and from there, you know, that was 30-something years ago. So I was too stupid. I didn't know anything. Yeah. So that's echoing, you know, what you said, man. Give up. Just give up. Let the Holy Spirit be your promoter.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's a hard thing in this industry, because I know a lot of guys that have not done that, and they've they've humped their way up, if you will, and they've got things that's in the mainstream. I know they've got a lot of buddies up there, and they've just worked so hard and pushed. And I totally get it. And if you guys want to do that, go right ahead. I just don't see that as a kingdom rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, do the work. Use your gift.
Yes, I work
don't
my
just sit
butt
around and
off
be
on all these
lazy,
things.
but the whole open doors and promotion thing.
Yeah. What I found is that if I'm able to leave the outcome to Jesus, so I work my butt off, I write with anybody that I'm supposed to write with. I work so hard at what I do, but the freedom has become this great thing where I'm just leaving the outcome to Jesus. Like, he knows the outcome. How cool is that?
How cool is that?
He keeps feeding my family in times when I'm like, I don't know how this is going to go, pretty cool.
Yeah. It seems to me like there's a psalm about the Lord being the shepherd and something like that.
Yeah. 203, Psalm 203.
Something like that. Yeah. So, well, listen, as we kind of wrap this thing up, it's been terribly rich, amazing. I feel like I've made a new friend, which I love. That's what I love mostly about this thing.
Yeah.
It's just making great new friends, hearing your story and your experience. And I just wonder, is there any one particular thing, as considering our audience, that you would throw out to them as far as their songwriting? I know you said some amazing things already.
Yeah.
And guys, if you haven't gotten about 18 things out of this, you're not listening. But is there one overarching thing that you might offer as we kind of close out?
Oh,
I mean, you just did really give up.
I did.
Maybe
I think there's something I'm trying to do these days. Is I'm trying to find the balance between writing for everybody and writing for myself. There's an old song. Keith Green is like one of my heroes in a lot of ways. And one of his songs was, my eyes are dry, my faith is old. No, by the way, think about singing this in a gathering like this is what we're going to sing as a whole group. My eyes are dry, my faith is old, my heart is hard, my prayers are cold. Who hasn't been there? But I know how I ought to be, alive to you, but dead to me. So what can be done for an old heart like mine? Soften it up with oil and wine. The oil is you, your spirit of love. Please wash me anew in the wine of your blood. I mean, of love. It's this crazy prayer that you go, man, I don't know too many gatherings that are going to sing that prayer. But for me, that prayer has changed my life because he was so dang honest about this thing. And sometimes it's those songs that actually change people. So as a songwriter, I'm in a town where we're always writing for a radio hit, but sometimes it's okay to write for our souls. What does your soul need to pray? And if you're in a church community context, what do you want your church community to pray? It just gives us a better idea than, well, let's just say that God is awesome and really big because that's what everybody else does, and we'll just sing that one. Like, what do people need to pray? And let's help people pray those by writing great songs. So that's
good
maybe
word.
just a thought.
No, that's great, man. Tim Timmons, man, this has been deep.
Thanks for
and
having me on.
rich. Yeah, man. I'd like to end every show with just a moment of acknowledging my guest for who they are, for who Christ is on the inside of you. The light of the gospel that shines through you, even in your brokenness, even with the cancer diagnosis, even with all the success, all the effort, all the letting go, the years of being a pro-Christian, but then coming to this newfound surrender. You have made a vast contribution to people, even in those days, I believe. I mean, totally in those days, no matter what was going on inside of you, you were still doing what you thought was right, and God totally used that in people's lives, no doubt. So we don't discount that, but we're thankful for this fresh awakening over the last couple of years, and certainly for the songs, but more for the Spirit of God that is flowing through you, for the X on your wrist, and now on mine, and hopefully on millions of people, a new sense of using those 10,000 minutes truly in spirit and in truth.
Yeah.
So, man, thank you for who you are and
Thank
who
you.
Jesus is in
received that.
you.
Thank
So, yeah. So we certainly join with you in praying for continued remission and healing. So
agree.
in this,
Thank you.
so what's your favorite way for people to connect with you and your social and your cell and all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, 10,000minutes.com is probably the thing I get most excited about. But I'm on the Instagram, so I think I'm Tim Timmons or Timmons Music on there, and Twitter Tim Timmons, Facebook Timmons Music. But I just had a really funny story that I just thought of as you
Tell
said that.
man.
Gosh, this is going to be a perfect ending. Not. But I was with some people recently. I was speaking at a conference, great conference, experience conference, as a worship conference, and anyways, I heard this story because this girl had just said somebody had just affirmed her song, and she said, nope, it was all God. It was all God, just that thing. And I guess he turned around. He's like, well, if it was all God, it would have been way better than that. And I about dropped.
He said that? He really said that?
Not to her, but just kind of like under his breath. I thought that is so good. I'm so sorry. This is the worst ending of your podcast that you've ever had right here.
But not the worst.
It is ultimately what you just affirmed in me is a blend of who God made me to be, and I get to actually be a representer of him and his goodness and his spirit. And there's somehow, it's not all him and it's not all me. There's a beautiful blend of like what he's doing in me because he created me to be me. And so you as a songwriter, whoever you are, he created you to tell a certain story and to tell your story and invite people into their own stories. So maybe that's a better way to finish that.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Tim Timmons, thanks, man, for being on the show. Thanks for listening in today on the Song Revolution podcast. If you're wanting to take your songwriting to the next level, be sure to jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com right now to check out all the valuable resources that we have there for you, especially NCS membership, where you can go deeper into a community of like-minded songwriters and tap into encouraging blogs, videos, powerful masterclasses, and a whole lot more to get you where you really want to go. I'll see you next time.